You're listening to a DM podcast.
Welcome to Over the Back Fence. I'm Di Edwards.
I'm Nicola Dale, and we're buddies of nearly 4 decades. And yes, we actually do happen to share a back fence.
We do. We love parties, people, inspirational stories, and honestly, making the most out of life.
So join us as we open our hearts, share our stories, and hear from some of the most inspirational people in the world. And have a laugh along the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Hey, Over the Back Fences. We're going to let you know that this episode's brought to you by AIR, and AIR for women is EIR, not AIR. Now, they're experts in natural hormonal health for women over 40.
Yeah, their products, they're designed to support energy, which we love,
that.
mood, sleep,
Love that.
more, helping you feel your best.
Oh, what more could you want?
We want
and
that.
honestly, we've both been using them now officially for 3 months. We will not promote something we haven't used, and we've noticed
Absolutely,
the difference.
we love it. So just use the code OTBF15 at checkout for an exclusive Backfencer listening discount at airwomen.com.au.
So
and
that's 15% off, isn't it?
15%.
That's great.
I know, that's really good. And that's eirwomen.com.au. Go get onto it.
Yahoo, and have your best life. Hey, guys.
Hey, Diney.
Guess where we are?
We're back in the studio. How was your weekend?
Oh, look, my love cup is full. My eldest son's just back from Singapore.
Oh, Ryan.
And it's just sort of families back together. He's been away in Singapore for 3 years. Yeah, just him and his beautiful girlfriend, Ella, came back, and we've just been spending lots of time. I just stare at him like, I can't believe you're actually staying. You're not going to be going back, because it was always quick trips, whatever. So it was lots of family time, and beautiful.
I'm happy for you, Di.
Yeah, and you took off to Melbourne.
I went to my old
the homeland.
The old hometown, and I stayed with my oldest school friend of mine. We've been friends, Anna, since we've been 13, so I stayed with her. And then I went to Megan Casteran's birthday, so happy birthday. She was on our potty as well.
Was that sort of...
So she was season one.
Season one.
Yeah, she's
fabulous.
the one you met Oprah and tequila.
It's very popular.
So guys, I went to the house where Oprah went, and they're doing tequila shots. So I was going, right, let's do the tequila shots there, which was great. So that was a fun weekend. So it was good. And now back in our happy spot, we've got somebody pretty smooth coming up.
Smooth.
Like to have them smooth here at the back fence.
We do.
And he lives in the hood, so we've got Cameron and Daddo
Northern
coming
Beaches.
up next. You're going to love it,
Enjoy, guys.
Enjoy.
Ciao. Welcome back to Over the Back Fence.
Yeah, our happy place.
Funny, we've just been chatting to our next guest about being over the back fence and how it's just such a chill place, and we decided that we better start the podcast.
I know.
Cameron Daddo, welcome to Over the Back Fence.
Thank you.
Yeah, lovely to have you. Look, many of you listening right now would know Cam. He has a great book out, and it's very pertinent to everything. I think all of us at some stage have felt nervous, or we've sort of crept back inside and gone, I can't do that. But the book's Keep It Smooth, Life Lessons with Confidence. The thing is, it's a book for me that what I loved, it's your life entwined with a lot of celebrities, how they confronted adversities to become confident. So there's a lot for us to learn. Also, from stuttering as a child to his upbringing both in Australia, USA, later his ups and downs in his acting career in La La Land, marriage challenges, and many, many more. The book explores so many interesting stars. I love the book. And I really enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you.
Cam, it's great having you at Over the Back Fence.
Oh, thanks for having me. Nice to see you, neighbours.
Yeah, I know. Well, we are actually really in the hood because we're Northern Beaches. You're that way too, aren't you, Cam?
Absolutely, yeah. Love it.
Did you have a surf this morning? Or?
I actually swam over to Shelley this morning from Manly.
Wow.
So I do the pink cap swim, which I talk about in the book.
Is that the Bold and the Beautiful?
Yeah, the Bold and the Beautiful. And then it was funny, there was a gaggle of women, all sort of, however old they were, but they were all resplendent in these navy blue swimsuits and pink caps. And I'd never seen any of them before. And I said, are you guys, because I haven't been there for a couple of weeks, I've been away. And I said, "Are you guys new?" And they said, "We're from WA." And they came across from WA as their swim team, and they've been checking out all the Northern Beaches pools. And today was their day to come down to Manly and swim to Shelley Beach.
Right, so it's not an actual pool. They're actually doing the open water.
Yeah, they swam across from Manly to Shelley. And then one of them looked at me and she said, "You look really familiar."
Oh, you must get that
And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, you're from WA, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, I shot a movie over there called How to Please a Woman." And
Sounds juicy.
We want to know how.
Sounds good. Banged heads.
You need to see the movie.
How to Please a Woman. It's just saying it's getting juicy.
Well, let's just say
that's
my
the
part
worst
in
word,
it, I
sorry.
wasn't very good at it in the
right.
movie.
Weren't you?
No, I
That's
wasn't
not
very
the
good
rumour
at it.
that we've heard.
Well,
Yeah,
someone has to be not good at it.
The love God.
Anyway, it was set in WA around a women's swimming group. So they were like,
that's
"Oh, we've
amazing.
seen it." So, you know.
How fantastic. So
Yeah.
how do you please a woman?
Oh my God! Let's get straight in.
I've learnt now is this. It's just one word.
Just one word.
Listen.
I honestly
Listen.
Oh,
That's it.
listen.
Just listen.
See that one
Yeah.
word, listen, took us 3 attempts. Well, do you know what? I've learned a lesson. Yeah.
We're listening. No, I'm listening to you.
Wow. Okay, listening to you. Well, Cam,
And that's what I learned
that's
about
a
you.
great start, and wow, and I gather you are a good listener because you've been married for how long have you been married?
33 years on Saturday.
Oh, congratulations!
cool.
That's great. But now, can we go back to the beginning, really?
Sure.
You know, so what are you a Northern Beaches boy? You're a Melbourne boy. Tell us a little bit about your background as a kid and what it was
Well,
like.
I was born in Melbourne. Mum and Dad moved to Sydney, so I went to Glenean School, the Rudolf Steiner School.
Great school.
Which is where our kids ended up being educated in Steiner Education in Los Angeles. And then coming back to Glenean, I interview the headmaster of Glenean. She's the first,
I love
Diana.
her.
Yeah.
I loved what she
brilliant.
wrote in your book,
she's
Cam.
the head. That's why I wanted to start with her because I wanted an educator to talk about confidence. And then we moved to Melbourne, and so we went to Mount Eliza and spent 10, 12 years in Mount Eliza, going to Mount Eliza Primary and then Peninsula Grammar. The family then moved to New Jersey for 2 years, and I
How
finished
old were
up
you
high
when
school
you
there.
moved to New Jersey?
I was just 16.
That would have been quite traumatic in a weird way because that's a really formative year.
It
15,
is.
16.
Yeah, and I was battling with stuttering at that point, and so it was quite a shift. It was seismic for me at that point.
I bet.
And then it was so seismic that I got sent home. Really.
Really?
Yeah, I was out of control.
Whoa!
I think
You're
I did talk about it in the book,
Yeah,
but
you
I was
do.
arrested on Route 24 in
I love
New
it.
York.
Sounds like a song in that.
On the roof of the car. and doing.
the roof
I was
of
on
the
the
car.
roof of the car.
As you do.
We'd been pulled over doing 55 mile an hour, and the cops were like, me and my best mate Bex were on the roof of the car, and the cops have gone, "Get down here, assholes!" And so we got down and taken straight up to Summit PD, and were let go. Weirdly, but then my dad was in Australia at the time, and he came home and he just said, "Yeah, matey, I think you need to go back." And so I was put back into boarding school back in Mount Eliza, and then ended up finishing at Melbourne Grammar boarding school.
Did the rest of
was
the
not for
family
me.
stay in America?
They stayed.
Right.
That's a big thing, isn't
It's
it? For you
huge.
then?
Yeah. So my schooling was completely turned upside down in the last 3 years, which took 5 years to complete. Because it just kept going, and I finished school when I was 26, and
I'm just finishing school
even though
now.
I did perfect match at the age of 21.
I love
As a
it.
kid,
I love
yourself.
it.
Wow.
It took a long time for me to get through it, and so that's what I did. And then when I started I got thrown out of college because I just couldn't concentrate, and I was playing music in my band, and shiny things really attracted me. So I just kept saying yes to shiny things, which is why I ended up in showbiz. And that's when I moved to Sydney at the age of, I think I was 19 when I moved to Sydney.
He saw the light.
I saw the lights of Sydney.
So did Nicola.
Tilly, you saw the light on before I drop in.
Don't eat much.
But hey, we
How
love,
good's a lamb roast,
hey,
Tom
you know
Cruise?
What? We've got to say, though, for the Melbourne people, we love Melbourne. I was just down there on the weekend. weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And don't we can. We love Melbourne. It's a great place.
Oh,
So,
I was just. Can I tell you?
Yes.
So I've been doing luxury escapes for the last, 3 or 4
How
years.
bloody
Great
brilliant.
gig,
it's-
great
That
gig.
must be the best gig on TV,
Well,
is it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And, people know me as that bastard who
I
gets
know,
to go
that's
overseas.
right.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, that I had one of the most memorable dinners the other night in Essendon while Ali and I were down there recording Keep It Smooth for the audiobook.
Yes.
She read all the female guest roles
Oh, that's
in the
smart.
book, which was
wonderful.
great.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the audio thing. So we were
yes.
having dinner at this place, and the steak we ate was cooked on a piece of volcanic rock.
Oh,
And so it was served raw on a
Yes.
500-degree piece of volcanic stone. And so it was cooking at the table. It's like Korean, I guess, Korean
Oh, that
barbecue or
sounds
something.
incredible.
Yeah.
And I said to these guys, I mean, they're the chef in the kitchen. I said, you're the luckiest chef in the world. You're cooking his chips and making
Exactly, that's
salad.
it, I know.
I'm cooking my
That's
steak. And it was the
great.
best steak
That's
I've
funny.
had. And I said, I've eaten in the most, the ridiculous restaurants around the world. So fortunate, so grateful for it. And yet here we are in Essendon eating. I said to them, this is one of the most memorable meals I've ever had.
Wow. Well,
That's-
shout
was
out
so
to
good.
Essendon. I was just saying to Cam before.
That's
because
right.
being
Kana
a Melbourne-
Bombers.
My dad used
Bringing
to
the
play for the
heat.
Bombers.
Yes, he
so,
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Essendon, we love it. Well, can we go back to those early days? Because
Yeah.
I can't imagine, I know there's a lot of people out there who do suffer with stutters. I actually had to go, I didn't have a stutter myself, but I had a speech impediment. I had to go and I used to lisp. And it was only a small one, but I used to go and have therapy, I guess, for that and do exercises. And still, it was one of those things. And I'm glad it was picked up. How was it for you? Because I
And,
can't
and
imagine.
how long did you have it for? How long were you stuttering for?
Well, I still have it now, every now and
Right,
again,
yeah.
if I get ahead of myself.
Right.
So it's still there. But look, I became aware of it in my last day of school of 6th grade at Mount Eliza Primary.
You hadn't noticed it prior to that.
I had no
Maybe
clue.
it
Wow.
hadn't happened.
I had
you
no
know,
I
so-
find
clue.
this amazing.
But Mum, after it happened, I talk about this in the book as well.
We love the book.
But
I
I
know, we don't
thank
love
you.
it.
I was making a speech, or supposed to be making a speech for an award that I'd received. They only gave away 2 awards, one for a girl and one for the boy, in the school on the last day, and I had to get up and make a speech. And the headmaster gave me the microphone, which I'd never held before. A microphone, and I held this thing, and nothing would come out. Literally, my whole body froze, and not a word or an utterance would come out. And I'm standing there going, I was stuck. And finally, I still remember what I said. On behalf of the kids of grade 6, thank you very much for this award. And sat down and was like, oh my, I don't know what I said. I don't even know why I said that. On behalf of the kids, thanks for this award. I mean, it was just like something I'd heard someone say before or something.
Yeah.
But I went home that afternoon and I said to Mum, she said, how did it go? I had my John Newcombe book with the little stamp in it that I'd gotten for my trophy.
Tennis.
John Newcombe tennis, because that was
yes.
my jam. And she said, you stutter. And I said, what's that? And she said...
She was in the audience.
No, she
No.
just...
What,
They
she-
went
where
Mum
did
and
she
Dad,
pick
but
up
they
on that?
knew.
They knew. That's interesting.
That's fascinating.
They knew. Mum and
Did they
Dad
think
knew.
you were
But you
going to
didn't.
grow out of it and not really mention
What?
it to you?
Yeah, I guess
'Cause
so.
was
It's just
thinking I'm
swept under the
surprised it
rug.
was- yeah, swept
That's a
under
good
the
point.
rug.
It's just one of those things. It wasn't swept under the rug in terms of when I was 4, Dad used to take me to to see this lady. And this lady and I would play games on the floor. We'd do cards and shuffle and things like that. And then one day, I loved going to see her. And then one day we weren't there anymore. And anyway, so Mum said, that's why you used to go and see, I don't know, Helga or whatever her name was. And I said, Helga? She said, yeah, when we were in Sydney. When we lived in Sydney, we used to take you to see her. And I said, what was that about? She said, well, you stuttered. And I said, okay. And so evidently I stopped going because she told my dad that he was the reason that I stuttered, because I wanted to please him so much that I would get anxious and get all excited, and then it grew into something else. And so Dad was like, that's enough seeing you. And so I never went back.
Okay.
So from then on,
Wow.
from that,
It's interesting,
but
isn't
my
it?
transition.
I can't go down there because I'd be there for an hour because I'm
Yeah.
a trained counsellor.
Okay.
That does my head in.
Yeah,
But
because
anyway,
we want to go further with
we-
your dad.
I've got to
That's
move.
that's
I'm going
another
to
podcast.
stop
Yeah.
there, but
Yeah.
keep going.
Wow.
So
that's-
From sixth grade, that last transitioning into Peninsula Grammar School, that summer was an absolute hell for me because now I became aware that I had this stutter and I couldn't speak. And then the first thing, of course, because there's so many, that my name begins with heavy consonants, the C and the D, I couldn't say my name. Oh. So if someone asked me what my name was, I just couldn't get it out. Like this, and so
I feel like giving him a hug.
Me too.
Isn't it? Like,
so
that's hard, you know, like
there
that,
I
yes,
was,
yeah,
going to this brand new school, having to explain to not just one teacher, but we had several subjects. So there was a handful of teachers that had to get to know me, plus new kids, boys, and it was all puberty and hormones and.
It's a yucky time.
All
anyhow,
that.
isn't it?
You
You know, like
You
it
name
is.
it.
It was like
Exactly.
this perfect storm of crap.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then so
It's a hormone whirlwind.
Yeah. So that's what happened, really. And I battled through school. I survived through school. It was not about learning, which is, I come back to that Steiner education and understanding and that was really all about teaching kids to ask questions and be curious and to learn how to learn. Whereas I was learning to pass tests and learning to just have approval.
Yes.
To
Can
get
I
approval.
quote there
Yeah.
from your book, because this really affected me, this Diana Drummond,
Yeah.
she's head of one of the Rudolf Steiner schools.
Yeah.
Teaching a child to deal with failure is vital to building confidence. Failure is a part of the human experience. That just speaks a million words. It's like we all, you'll be fine, it's okay. But no, let's teach you how to deal with that sense of failure. And that comes back to your book about confidence. See, if it starts there as a child, it's such magnificent tools to take through life. She's very powerful. I love this woman.
She is, and so is Gina Chick, talking
I
about
love
the same
Gina
thing.
Chick.
Talking
We
about
just
the-
saw her.
talking about the
Yes.
same thing, about making things just a little bit more difficult for the kids so that they feel like they've achieved something. So you just make whatever the task is, just make it a little bit difficult so that they just, they have a win. Or if they fail, that's okay too. And I think failure is so important. I mean, Michael Jordan talks about it. A lot of people talk about dealing with failure and having to know that creates resilience, that creates your strength. And
do you think that actually is an issue these days? Because it seems to be a theme with many of the parents too, that they try and protect their children so much, like with the helicopter parent, and they're being they don't want
I'll
them
do
to
it for
fail.
you.
Or everyone gets like a stamp or an award for going it. There's not going to really be a winner or a loser because we want everyone sort of like the same. Do you think that's sort of happening, or do you think now we've become more aware of it, that we do have to, fail to learn?
I'm not sure where we're at with it because I'm not a parental expert or anything, but I feel like there's through the podcast that I do with Ali and we've had
Separate bathrooms, by the way. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
It's great. It's actually
we
great.
love it.
Thank you.
Relationships.
We've had educators on there, and it feels like there's been a shift, or certainly a groundswell of information for parents coming out. And then you've got people like Gina Chick, who's really out there doing wonderful work. What I talk about here in my book about parenting, and the idea that for us with parenting our kids, it was really about making sure that they knew that they were safe, and then creating a boundary, and then allowing them to push the boundary. Because you only grow, as I talk about at the beginning, you only grow from an edge. And often we want to be comfortable, and you want to make it okay. You want to and it's okay to be comfortable, because in a comfortable spot you can rest, and I think rest is really important. Yet in order to grow and move out, you have to be on the edge. And so to be uncomfortable is a natural state that a lot of us push away from because it's uncomfortable. But once you get past that uncomfortable and you have that victory of getting through something, that's where the feeling of confidence comes.
Confidence has been who you are.
Yes.
Well, true, or finding your
But do you think
authentic self.
Your whole life, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess everyone's life everyone has challenges throughout it, but I'm sort of thinking your life, particularly the life and the path that you've chosen, being an actor and, model, it's up for rejection, it's up for all that,
God,
that it
yeah.
really is. And you've had to be on the edge the whole way through.
Yeah.
You know, did you find that?
Oh, yeah.
God.
Yeah, yeah.
Dent in the ego.
Yeah,
Bang,
yeah. I
bang.
mean, the thing was,
I can't imagine what it was like getting rejected after rejected. Or was it because you had enough accolades that you're like, yes, and then you bang, yes, bang.
the strange thing for me, everyone has their own journey.
Yes.
This is the thing. If you compare yourself to someone else, you're toast.
Yeah, good
Very
point.
Stop
true.
Isn't it?
comparing. I mean, I remember. I mean, I know
true.
it's a famous quote, but it was Marina Pryor who'd said it to
Yeah.
me. I didn't know that. I didn't know it, but she said, "Comparison is the thief of joy."
Yeah. How true is that?
And-
we say
and I-
that.
What do I
yes,
And I
say?
loved
exactly.
it. I was
Yeah,
like,
know.
"Oh my god!"
I
you're
say
absolute-
expectation is the thief.
Oh,
of joy.
expectations,
Yes, exactly.
expectations,
Yeah.
comparisons.
That's my
have-
stop
true,
right
isn't
on.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
and that's one of the things I attempt to do is knock all expectations out. Go, if you're going to turn up, just be where you are and be ready to listen and be curious with the people that you're talking to. Lean in. You know, expectations always get dashed, and that's the same with beginning a golf game or heading out for a surf or I've got this expectation. It's like, nah, just be with what happens and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So, but yeah, Marina said to me, she said the comparison is the thief of joy. In the world of acting,
Yeah.
if you compare yourself to anyone else, yeah, that's what I said, it's really tough on yourself. It's better to go, this is my journey and this is how it's going to work for me. When I started as an actor, I got every job I went for.
Woohoo!
I got awards for
Yeah.
every,
Tick,
pretty much
tick,
every
tick, tick,
award
tick,
nominations or the actual
Wow.
Logie Award
Yeah.
or the
Wow,
People's
that's
Choice
huge.
Award,
Yeah.
or when my first record, I won a golden guitar, not the Tamworth one, a Victorian Country Music Award, but I won awards for everything I did. So I just had this expectation that every
Right.
time I turned up for a meeting, I would get it.
In a way, I
And it
can
worked.
understand though. I
But
can understand
it,
that.
it did work.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Hollywood, I saw myself as like, okay, I knew I had to start again. None of these people knew who I was. And so I went
Had
with
an
this.
expectation in Hollywood?
Well,
Did you?
no,
or
the
not?
idea was I just went, I got to start again. So the expectation was no one's going to know me, and that was true.
Well, that's healthy. then,
Right.
if you
So,
start with
and
that.
I just also knew that I was probably the most, I've said to myself, you're the most experienced unknown in Hollywood right now.
That's
your
good.
edge.
Good one.
That's
Right,
good.
so you go in there, you go into these rooms, and they're going to be like, it's the first time they've met you, but they're going to see a guy who's already won a couple of Logies. He's done this. They don't know any of that. I know it, so I know what I'm bringing into the room. So I started work straight away when I went to LA. I got my SAG card through a job that you have to get in order to
Yes.
get a SAG
Yeah.
card. I landed the Models Inc. series pretty quickly. That landed into another series.
that was huge.
Then
That
another
was
series.
really big.
Yeah, and then after that, when the actors
Bingo.
strikes, all the producers strikes, the directors, writers, suddenly everything dried up, and I was left in the middle of an ocean treading water, going, I don't know what am I doing wrong. And the truth was, I probably wasn't doing much wrong. It was just the way it goes. Sometimes the tide comes in, and sometimes it goes out.
So
You
how
just gotta
did you
trust
deal with that,
yeah,
Cam?
not very
Hundreds
well.
of knockbacks with auditions.
Yeah.
Like mentally, how did you deal with that?
I'll drop a name. It was Jason Priestley, who was
You're
Jason
allowed to
Priestley.
drop names like that.
It was
We
Jason.
love
Oh, Sam, our producer. Jeez.
Eh,
She's getting hot in here too.
Yeah, it was the 90210
the
guys.
aircon on, Jay.
It was those dudes.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Jason Priestley and I were together for some thing, and
What a
I said
pair.
to we got better because
come on, we
Luke
wanna
Perry and I
really?
became mates.
Oh,
yeah, we worked together.
wow.
We worked together 3 or 4 times. Luke and I.
Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Oh, yeah.
A terrific bloke.
Really,
but Jason
yes.
said, I said, what do you do after a... Well, first of all, for me
A
with
knockback.
auditions, I'd audition. I would. My preparation would happen for the audition. I'd leave home. Before I'd leave home, I'd light a candle. I'd say a prayer.
Oh,
I'd
Cam.
I'd do these things.
romantic.
It's romantic. It was Smooth FM back
Yeah,
there in
no,
Rome.
I
woo.
love
So I'd light
Guy.
myself a candle
love
and I'd
songs.
say a prayer and I'd go out to the audition and I'd do the audition and I'd come back home and I'd put the script down and I'd say a little prayer of gratitude for the audition and I'd blow the candle out. Right, so I had this whole thing going
Ritual
on
going. That's
that
cool.
I would do.
Yeah,
And
I like
most
that.
of the time it didn't work.
Right.
But I said to Jason one day, I
you
said, what do
change
you
it up?
do? What do you
Yeah,
do
what do
when
you
you
do?
do auditions?
Good question.
And he goes, oh man, I just go in there and do it. And then he goes, I walk out and I bin it. I said,
Sorry, I've been it.
I bin it. I
Oh,
said,
see,
you bin it?
that's-
And he goes,
that's
yeah,
cool.
just goes side, boom.
So in every sense of the
Straight
word.
in the bin.
In every
Wow,
sense of the
bin it.
word.
Forget about it.
How
I like that. I
Forget
like
about it.
too.
It's
He
harsh,
goes,
but I like it.
Chuck it because
Yeah.
you don't. It's not up to you. There's no
Yeah.
power.
That's like let it go to the universe.
So,
Let it
isn't
so
it?
my
go.
question to
Let
you
it
is,
go.
did you
Let it
bin it or
go.
did you hold on to it because you had so many fucking
now,
knockouts?
now,
No,
I
back
bin
in
it.
LA.
Oh,
Yeah,
bin
bin
it.
it.
After I spoke
Did
with
you?
him, I
Did you
bin it.
start binning
and
it?
the
Yeah.
second part of that thing is
Yeah.
bin it and go do something you love.
And what did you do?
I'd go hit golf balls.
See? Now that's
Yay.
healthy.
I'd go for a surf,
We're
but
swingers,
the
Cam.
thing
we like
right-
to have it.
Yeah.
We
you?
we
Where do you
Yeah,
go?
we
play
love
golf.
it. We just love golf.
We're at
Yeah.
Monash. We're at Palm Beach.
We're
But you're
everywhere.
at Longreef, aren't
We
you?
go- we
Yeah.
golf around.
Come on, we'll do
Okay,
some
we'll do some
reciprocals.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
for
love
We need to
sure.
do that.
She's bloody good
My
at
mates
it.
would love to
I'll
see
give
you two
sure,
out there
I'd
at
love
Longy.
to,
No,
yeah.
I would love that.
Seriously,
to.
but you know
And
where
just
we
go
get
golf.
exercise here because we talk the whole time.
This one gets in trouble for
My
his-
chin
No.
is
What
flat as a
about
board.
the
Sorry, we are
back to-
digress. You
back to
hit
golf.
balls to get you bin it.
Well,
Go and hit some
Yeah,
balls.
bin the copy and then go hit some balls. Or more succinctly, give yourself something to look forward to. So have something to
Yes.
look forward to after a gig.
But doesn't it build up though? When you get knocked back so many times, you can bin, golf. Doesn't the residue drop at some stage mentally, like carrying the weight of that? Or did it?
It did, especially with 3 kids at home and Al and a mortgage.
More
and,
so.
and so in 2008, the GFC happened, the global financial crisis happened, and it just hit America big time. Now, we went through it. We lost our home, we lost our retirement. We basically we had $24 in the bank. And so when you ask about what the compounding nature of going into an audition and getting knocked back, and knowing that it was a couple of years, the process. I had dark hair in 2007, 2010 it was totally white.
Yeah. No, it speaks.
It happens to nearly every.
It says
to nearly-
Cam. It says a lot.
Don't you
It was-
say
it was
Cam?
very
happens
stressful.
to nearly
What-
every
what
president
happened?
or prime minister except
Yeah.
for Trump. He just gets brighter around.
Well, he just get more orange.
Thank you.
Just hair dye just
But
gets
actually,
more expensive.
with that, can you tell the story and talk about with confidence too, with your hair, seeing you brought it up and sort of then it went silver? Didn't a makeup artist tell you that your forehead was getting a little bit big?
We're
And-
not going to look
and
at your forehead.
I'm thinking he's got a great forehead. It hasn't really receded at all. But what happened? Tell us what she said and what was your remedy. I'm
Right.
still
well,
laughing.
Well, so it was FX the series. I was in Toronto and I was playing 2 characters, my character, and then there was another character that was me of another guy putting a latex think Mission Impossible face on to be me, and he was masquerading as me. So I had to play both characters. And the special effects guy, who was terrific, did amazing work, he said to me, oh, when you're playing... So the character that was playing me was a character called Lubar. So when Lubar is Rolly, I'm going to put some hair pieces on your forehead. And I said, why are you going to do that? And he goes, because you're receding, where you're receding, you've got those airplane landing strips on either side of your head. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, do I? And
old?
I
You're only
I hadn't
young,
even thought about
fresh
it. Oh, I was
you know,
31,
like,
32,
yeah.
and I'm going, really? That's some Anyway, I went home and had a look. Holy I'm losing my hair. This is the only reason I work, is because of my hair and the way I look. Oh, I had no...
See, the mirror
was-
is telling
that
you
was-
a
that-
lie.
Another thing
that's
to
what I
knock
was-
his confidence.
Yeah, that's
you
what I was
know?
telling. So anyway, it started this downhill slide into going what baldness cures and what I could possibly do. And this is before the internet and all this sort of shit. And this is like 1996. And so I used to love Men's Health Mag. I still do love Men's Health magazine, and it had a cure for baldness section in there, and it was 2 ingredients from the supermarket to cure baldness. One was kitty litter, and the other was
kidding me.
No, kitty litter, and the other one was Colgate toothpaste or peppermint toothpaste.
Wait a minute, together.
Yeah. So here's what I have to
This
do.
is
I
the
had to get a.
It would peel paint off.
In my rental accommodation, I had a mortar and pestle, and so I've got that, and I've got the bag of kitty litter, put that in there, grind it up into a powder, and then add a squirt of toothpaste in there and make a paste out of the kitty litter and the toothpaste, and then smear it on the parts that you're going bald on, or you're losing your hair.
Hoping it's only on your head.
So I've smeared this paste all over here. I've gone all there. The
Did you
kitty
peel
litter.
your skin off too?
Look, it started tingling, and I'm like, this is okay.
Oh, it's
I did
working
it, you know,
now.
I did it on a
meow,
Saturday.
meow, meow.
Yeah.
Or purring or
Whiskers.
That's concerning.
Yeah,
Whiskers.
and so they call me now.
Talk
Whiskers.
about La La Land.
Ali, come over here.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So anyway, long
The end
story
result
short,
was?
I've rocked up to set on Monday morning with blisters and hairs all messed up, hairline, and my makeup artist is going, Cameron, what happened to your forehead? And I'm like, oh, well, it's 5 a.m, you know, sitting in the makeup chair. It's got a coffee, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did this thing with the kitty litter and the toothpaste, and her face has just gone redder than your side, and she's like this, and suddenly she couldn't hold it anymore. She's gone exploded with laughter, and she goes, "Oh my god!" And there are other people in the makeup trailer, and they all want to know what's happened. And
So everyone
So
knew.
they put the latex on him.
Yeah, the latex
To
had
try
to be
and
to
cover it.
put proper skin on me.
There's so many things in your book, Cam, that I love. But you know what I love also is that you really aren't afraid to tell those stories about yourself too. You know, like and that sort of gives and I just think that gives you credit because like
I
you can,
agree.
everybody we know when you win awards and people should be recognised for all you've achieved, and really everything you've achieved. You certainly you're iconic here in Australia. You certainly make us all really proud, and we do mean that.
Yeah, in so many ways.
In so many ways, but
yeah.
those like little stories there, and then
I love
and then,
it.
people when you are well known, and then people try and knock you down. And you tell that story when you're at the Oaks, and you're stitched up by these blokes.
Oh,
tell
yeah,
them because
yeah.
that's funny,
Oh,
I
well,
love that
so that was
one.
perfect
Yeah.
match time, and it was early days, and this guy just came up out of nowhere and said, "Oh, mate, I've told people that I'm your friend from school, and they're just giving me shit for it. Can you just come over and say hi to me?" And I went, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Just
the Oaks.
He goes, "At the Oaks in Neutral Bay.
Yeah,
It's very trendy.
we were
And it was
classic spot.
hopping back in those days,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
1991 or
again now, isn't
Yeah.
it?
yeah, probably. Yeah, well, it's one of those iconic
It's great.
places.
Yes,
It's a great
yeah.
vibe, So it was late '80s. So I went, yeah, no worries. Okay, yeah, sure. I'll do that for you. But what's your name, Dave? Okay, Dave, no worries. So I get up. I said I'll be there in a couple of minutes. So I'll finish my pot and I'll come over and say hi to you. So he's gone, yeah, no worries, great. Thanks so much. He was looked really relieved. I thought, I'll do him a solid. I walk over there 5 minutes later, and the whole of his table sort of turned around and look up at me. And I said, "G'day, Dave. How you doing? I haven't seen you for ages." He goes, "Fuck off, Cameron."
Oh,
And it was like, and I stood there, and they all, I was totally set up,
Exactly. That's the
you
Aussie
know what?
setup.
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
True.
And it's
It's true.
But for you to say that, because it
It's
just sort of
amazing.
shows how there's jelly around people, like a
Totally.
total jealousy there. And
Yeah.
for you, I guess, it's like anyone who's in the public arena, you put yourself out there. We all know then that you can get slapped sometimes,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's sort of pretty
Majorly,
cool.
and
But can
that's
we
what
talk
com-
about
It was a
perfect-
cheap shot, but
Yeah, it's a
he
real
got me,
cheap
and I was
shot.
like,
Can
"That's
I
like saying
take
the
you
book.
back?
You got
Can we
me,
go
well
back
done."
to LA? Can we go
Back
back
to-
to
yeah,
LA?
and then I wanna go back
we
to
bounce
perfect.
around, Cam.
We want to
Okay.
go and go
Just
to
go-
perfect
Great.
match.
go with our
I'm with you.
flow.
I'm with
Go
you.
with our flow.
We're pivoting, right?
Because
That
the
was it.
book,
Yes.
the book bounces around too,
Yes, it
which
does.
I
Yeah,
loved.
yeah.
Can I take you back? Because I'm so proud of you and Ali, how you overcame adversity with your marriage. Can you just briefly talk about how that came about with the co-star? And because there's a lot of people listening today that have either walked away from a marriage, been reactive, and or are thinking maybe how am I going to resolve this. I mean, you guys against all odds, and I honour this with your marriage, is that you built it back up again. So can you just sort of briefly describe to us how that came about and where you are now?
Whoa, we got
Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah.
Because it was back
It's very
in,
simple how it came about, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, I fell for a co-star, and
Classic.
this was yes, I say,
Yeah.
it's the Hollywood cliche,
Yeah.
and so it was Models Inc. It was early '90s. Ali and I were 2 years married, and I just that's it, plain and simple. That's what happened, and it didn't last very long, and
You moved out.
I moved out of home, moved in with a friend of mine, and he and I, shared the place. But Al and I, all during that time, because it didn't feel right. It was a very muddy time, and even to think about it now, it's still painful to dig back into it, because I wasn't very confident. There I was on this big show. I was sort of questioning a bit about Hollywood and my place, and looking for validation. Still very much, and I talk about this, is this looking for validation. Love me, love me, love me.
Externally, isn't it?
Yeah,
Externally.
Oh, yeah, and I'm trying not to jump ahead into how therapy helped me work that part of it through. But long story short, as soon as I realised with therapy that I was the one that had to validate myself, the danger is looking for having someone else come, gee, you're pretty, gee, you're good looking, gee, you're this, I want you, I want you. It's a very seductive way to be. And the truth is, in my job, that's what I'm supposed to be procuring, that kind of vibe. People, if I do my job well, people are going to want me to be in the movie or be whatever wanting is for that individual on the outside. But that can't be how it works. That's danger for me if I'm looking for outside validation. So
a lot of people are that are listening right now.
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah. So I never gave up on Ali and I. Yes, we were split up, but while we were split, we were both doing therapy together, and then I was doing individual therapy at the same time. And so about 6 months into that, I walked away from the relationship on the show. The show also got axed.
Wow.
And which came later, actually, because I was like, how am I going to get back on the set and have to deal with that again? Anyway, it was like an act of God, just or whatever you want to call it.
Wow.
The show got axed, so I never had to do that.
Yeah. Thank goodness for Ali too.
So Al and I, and to her credit, she hung in. And I
was
hung
going to
in.
say that is to you and to the listeners who don't know, Ali's, she was known sort of like iconically back in the early days as the famous Jolly model. And like the most gorgeous. And she's
still as hot.
And now she's sort of going so successful with menopause and her book and which is wonderful.
She's courageous. She's a courageous
woman.
What
a strong, beautiful person to do that.
So you both worked hard, brought it back together.
Yeah.
And it is a work in progress, any relationship.
Of course it is. And it's all about maintenance.
Yes.
And maintaining the garden, if the garden is the marriage or whatever it is. But as anyone who knows about a garden, you can build that garden and then, but 6 weeks later, you need to be doing the weeds and pruning and taking good care, watering it. And that's how I look at the relationship anyway. It's
thank you for sharing that.
You know what? It's to be honoured, and I did say that. It truly
is to be honoured.
I'm really proud of you both.
And we certainly are with Ali, and it's because it is like those lessons there that so many people have gone through that in their own different ways.
And I'm glad that we did go through, because it happened before our kids.
Yes.
And then so our kids were born, and Ali and I have continued to work. We continue to do it. What we did understand though was we got together. I asked Alison to marry me 3 months after we met.
Oh, that's instant love.
And so, we didn't know each other.
Yeah, right.
And we didn't know ourselves,
No.
more to the point.
No. Yeah.
And I'll speak for
Two
me.
young, hot kids, together.
Yeah.
Bang.
In the
public eye. Throw that in as well.
Yeah, I didn't know myself.
No.
I didn't know that I didn't know
not.
that I had this issue of needing, wanting, and grabbing whatever was shiny.
That's what's good with aging, isn't it?
It's good it happened in the early days in a way.
It is.
You cleared a lot of the cobwebs.
And didn't you renew your marriage vows?
We did.
Which
we
I think
did.
is beautiful.
Yeah, we
to
did.
Sort of start again a bit.
Yeah, we did that at the end of 1995, and we renewed our vows, and that was with the person that helped us get back together again.
That's so great.
And the key thing here, and I think this is something that if anyone's going through any of this sort of thing, it's not getting it back. It was recreating it and moving forward.
Ooh,
Starting
nailed it.
Yeah.
Bingo. Love that.
To go back that's trappy. But to go, all right, this is what we're bringing now. Be right on the apology. I still apologise for that. If it comes up, I go, ooh, there's still something there.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry
Yeah.
that I that I made that happen. And that's, what is it? It's close to 30 years ago.
Yeah. But you work on it every day, I guess, in some
You're
ways
human.
there. We both, because we write down our separate notes, like I do what I
And
like
then-
and Dar likes what she likes,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of things. But we loved it. Tell us
Miranda,
about,
it's concerning.
when you're in LA, and how sometimes men don't talk, and men have these issues.
with the
and that-
team, the men's
Yeah,
team.
we
tell
love
us
the
about
mention. That
'cause-
got us both.
Yeah.
in a huge way.
Yeah, well, that was GFC time, and that was when you asked me how did I handle that, losing the home and our retirement money.
Huge.
I was not handling that very well. The kids called an intervention. Ali said to the kids, "You want to talk to Daddy, and I'll make sure we sit him down and we can have a chat." And that was probably the hardest thing as hard as anything, was having the 3 kids sit in front of me and just say, "You're a yelly dad. You're a,
Slap.
all those sort of comments that they were saying to me, which is seared into my psyche. And so I wrote a letter to the men of the school, the fathers of the school that we were
I was
at.
wondering who it was to. It was to the school.
It was at the school, and so
Right.
I
Just
wrote
off your own
an
back,
open
Cam.
letter.
Yeah, right
Isn't
on.
that good?
I wrote an open
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
just said-
courageous to do that
Yeah,
yourself.
I didn't want to hear from some people that I'd been going to. I wanted to hear from men, and I didn't want to be told what to do. I just wanted to know if they were going through a similar thing. So when I put the letter to the guys, the men of the school, I just said, "Look, I'm going through X, Y, Z, and if anybody else is going through the same thing, maybe we can just talk."
Don't you love this, Sam?
Yeah, really healthy,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes,
really beautiful.
and so that was the beginning of the men's team, and the idea was to not give advice; it was just to listen. And I would say to Chris, I got to turn around to Chris, and Chris would say to me, "Well, Cam, I've been going through this, and I did this," and I said, "Well, what did you do?" And he said, "Well, I did this and this and this." I said, "Okay, right," and then that's where it stopped.
Right.
And I go, I'm taking my notes, and I go, okay, well, I'll try that. Will go home and I'll ask a question to Al, and I won't say anything for 90 seconds because it's really hard because I want to fix everything. I just shut up for 90 seconds and just do that little tidbit, see what happens there. And I know I would just do stuff. So then I thought that first team, which was, that first night that we were there, so 20-odd guys turned up. That first night, and
That's huge.
into my office and my back room at the
Even
house.
if it was 2, it would have been great. But
yeah,
20
but
is remarkable.
20-something guys turned up, and then we did it 2 weeks later, and maybe 18 guys, and then about 9 guys turned up the third time around, and then I got a job and had to go interstate, so it kind of fizzled out. But another one of the dads said to me, "We do this thing, we call it our team," and I was like, "Right," and they met under the stars, in the dark, no torches, nothing, and they sat in a circle. And they each spoke, and
this is so healthy, isn't it?
that
I'm
when
loving this.
he's like, "Hey Cam, I think you really like this. They're cool guys," and they were all from different things. They weren't actors; they were just normal blokes.
It's really healthy to hear this.
And we sat in the open air in the dark, so it was just like you're in your own little bubble.
More confident too. In
Well,
the dark.
it was just like
Not so
in the dark.
confronting.
You're not in a bright lights under fluorescent light in some therapist's office.
Yeah,
you're out in the
right on.
fresh air, and you can't give advice, and there's no alcohol, and it's you're just going
present.
around, and you're just listening to people. And it was very supportive, but supportive with a sharp, loving stick as well. So it's like, dude, you're full of shit right now. Someone would say, if that was the truth. If someone was like, "You're just spinning your wheels. What are you doing?" It was that kind of. So in the dark, and you're like, "Whoa!" And
So they're putting their input in there.
Absolutely.
confronting yet constructive criticism.
calling you out, because it was part of it was being accountable. Because no
Very
one,
helpful.
no, it wasn't any good if someone's going to come there and spin bullshit to you. Well, what are you going to do with that? So it was like, no, this is what we'll do. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will say this is not ringing true for me right now, Nicola. What's really going on? No, come on. This is your time.
Get
Work it
real.
out with us.
Yeah.
And then you can take it out. With confidence, you can take it out in the world. If you work it out with your team, who are there, they're your brothers, right? So you work it out with your brothers. And then when there are people in the outside world, you've already done it. And you've got that confidence because you've done it once already with someone, with these guys that are not going to let you, they're not going to let you bullshit because you're in that thing for, if you 6 months, you've been circling up with those guys for 6 months, and they know
I'm
you're
emotional.
bullshit.
I know.
Why am I so emotional about this?
Yeah, I get that.
It's just
Daddy.
got me.
It really
It's
is.
just
I think it's really beautiful to
got
hear
me.
that from men doing that, because a lot of times women have like the women's circle, and for years we're kind of lucky as females, we're saying chatting over the back fence, but it's really acknowledging that. And now it's sort of like men, women, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's human beings.
Yeah.
Talking and being vulnerable. And do you think, because our big, really well done on that, but do you think it's a
Proud
way
of
just
you.
for our listeners also people to integrate it in our normal lives, because that's sort of one of our purposes of having the back fence is combating loneliness, that conversation, chatting, reaching out to people and being, like really real and vulnerable. Do you think it's sort of something that we can simply do in our own circle, Cam? Like you just put a letter out and did it with some friends from school or people you might have known? Do you think it's sort of
It
something
literally
in our
was over the back
communities?
fence,
Yeah.
wasn't
it?
I
I
think
think
the back fence thing.
It is possible. It is hard to, like, I've set the team up here, and I've had different incarnations of the team here, and it sometimes can be like herding cats.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is, it's not for me as if I, we'll call it the grand poobah or the guy who's you're the central guy.
The big
There
horn.
is
Yeah.
there is
Fred
no leader.
Flintstone.
That's the thing about it. Everyone gets a chance to lead a meeting. So you come in and you all check in at a number. And if you're feeling great, you're a 10. If you're feeling shit, you're a 1. So everyone checks in at a number. So the number gives everyone else an idea of where they're at.
That's good.
And then, so you just know a niche straight away where someone's at. I'm a 3, and this is what, you have a little blurb about the week. And then the leader, it's, as I said, it's a revolving leader. It's not that one guy who everyone has to look at. It's whoever's the leader is. He might turn around and say, okay, Bob, well, are you okay to dive into your number 3 and where you're at? And Bob will go, yeah or no. I'm going to sit on the bench for a little while. I just want to listen. I'm not ready to talk about this yet. And then the leader will always set about he'll have a question or a topic for the meeting. So whether that's how do we talk to women? How do we get through, I don't know how, I keep making these fucking old man jokes and they're not appropriate and I don't know what to say anymore and I don't know what to,
It's a changing
which a lot of
world.
guys in my generation don't know. They just feel like they're so confused about how to speak now.
Absolutely.
And they've lost their confidence.
There's
and
a
they're getting
lot of them.
angrier and angrier. Some of them are getting angrier and angrier. Some of them are just backing off and not saying anything anymore. So there's a real issue, and there's to have other guys go, oh yeah, I've read this thing, and here's what you can say, and you go and that's when you go home and you road test it, and you see how it goes.
What is it called now? It's called.
It's called My Men's Team.
My Men's
Team.
Team. Has it had a ripple effect? Like as in around Australia or like?
I would love
to
to say that, but it hasn't at the moment.
But
and
you're setting an example though for others to do it. Really.
Yeah, I've always been of the opinion, and this is what I say in the men's team, is that men who are happy, healthy men create happy, healthy families and communities. That's the ripple effect. That's the ripple effect. So happy men. So let's start making happy men. Let's get guys speaking. Let's speaking their feelings, feeling safe enough to do that, to speak what's really going on. And a lot of the time I find, particularly here in Australia, is that alcohol is a great opener. It gets you talking, but if you have enough beers, you don't remember what's been said.
Yeah.
So you have the relief of it. You wake up the next day going, geez, I felt unburdened, I'm a bit hungover, but I've hung out with my buddies.
Yeah.
But then the conversation doesn't go on from there. There's no checking in, which is where the men's team was always like, okay, well, we're doing this once a month.
You're a father of 3 beautiful kids. How old are they now?
Lotus is 28.
28.
River's 24 and Bodhi's 18, just graduated from high school.
Wow.
So
HSC.
have you
That's
got
amazing.
the empty nest yet, or too young?
Bodhi's is still home.
18.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
Riv's out. Lolo has been away for a year and a half overseas, but she's popped in and out. But I think she's about to move to Melbourne with her guy, and so that's
Beautiful
that's
family.
exciting.
Beautiful.
And I've got to say,
So,
I love the
yeah.
podcast too. There's so many, but I love the one I thought was really courageous too, when your
Great
son
name.
Riv came on and
Yeah.
he's talking how he
Oh,
came
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and then I felt sort of
That's in the book. I love that.
and I
It's
thought
beautiful.
that was really good. You know, but
Yeah.
it's great. Your podcast with Ali is so good about relationships. Is there any sort of like big takeaway that you get from interviewing so many different people with relationships of like, I don't know, the do's and the don'ts, or a really obvious standout in relationships?
Yeah, there is. I think the main through line is communication. Mm-hmm. And that is, I think when we withhold how we're feeling, that's a major red flag. And it's unfair in the relationship to do that because the other person knows, like we sense when things aren't right. We know. We're wild animals.
We are. Our
We
gut.
are.
The gut knows,
Yeah,
right?
the
You
gut
know
knows.
when something's
True.
not right, and you know when someone's withholding
Intuition.
something. So if you're the person withholding something, that other person's usually walking around on eggshells, and it's probably going to make the mistake over and over again, unconsciously,
And take it to the next relationship.
that happens.
Doesn't
If you
it?
don't,
Yeah.
that's the
That's
thing
it,
with
isn't
Ali
it?
and I. We were told
Rinse
early
and
on,
repeat.
you can either choose to stay. You've only been together 2 years, you two. So you can choose to get to know yourselves, get to know each other, and then go through. Otherwise, you're just going to have to do it with someone else. So if you really love that person and you really like that person, you want to be with them, why wouldn't you go with them if they're willing? And that's what Ali was willing to walk with me, which I'm hugely grateful for.
Oh, beautiful
It's the
Ali. We
greatest
love
gift
Ali.
ever.
We're going to get Ali on
Sunday.
talking about menopause as well
Yeah,
too.
so
I wanna-
that's
thank you.
it is
Conversation.
communication
And connection.
Yeah, and it's
Listening.
and I say listening, and there's that quote: you learn way more when you listen than when you speak. You know, people just keep talking. It's like, and when people talk, they let you know exactly what they need when they're talking. So just keep listening.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, so it was our anniversary on the weekend, and Ali, we were sitting there, and neither of us had flowers for each other. We knew we were going out for dinner, but we're just like, we didn't have anything. I thought, what's the best gift that I could give her right now? So she was busy making herself brekkie, and I just asked her a couple of questions, and I don't think I spoke for about 25 minutes, and she was just talking about stuff, and I was like, well, and what about this one? And it was the best thing because I kept remembering things that she'd said.
Oh, brilliant.
So I was able to throw those in there, and
Yeah.
she's looking at me going, he's actually listening to me.
Beautiful.
So I felt like, okay, good on you, Cam. You've actually,
So
you're
listening.
listening. You're
Repeating
listening,
it back
and
a
you-
bit.
Yeah, and you're,
Connection
and I was
and
repeating stuff that was
conversation.
said
Good.
a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Beautiful.
Which is, that to me, why
I
not
love that
work
tip.
at that?
We're just
Why
running
not
out
work
of
at
time,
that?
Cam. There's two things I want to say. We've also got our magical
Questions.
question. I just want to say, who was your teacher that had a profound effect on you that they brought in when This Is Your Life? What was his name?
I'm going to cry when I say his name.
He's hold on. Don't you're going to make me cry again? It'll be
Cry,
2 in 1
no,
interview.
cries,
Your
jeez.
Latin teacher.
Eugene.
It got me.
Eugene
Because
Copas.
it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes, it
I
does.
believe that. As far as he goes, what was the pivotal point? What was it that happened or transpired for that to have such a profound effect on you?
I've been
Briefly.
so scared to read out loud in class when I was at school at Peninsula, which started in Year 7, as I said, all the way through. I finished Year 10 at Peninsula. And those Year 7, 8, 9, 10, those 4 years, a lot of teachers just made us read out of textbooks. And the amount of stress and anxiety that caused inside of me, it only made the stutter worse. And then for Eugene Copas, for my first week, or it didn't happen in the first week, but I took Latin in the States when I went to high school there. And he asked me to read the lesson, and I stuttered. As I did it, of course I stuttered, but the American kids were different to Australia. Australians were like, he's that camera.
Cruel, aren't they?
The American kids just didn't do anything.
Wow.
And that's that's a funny thing
interesting,
about
isn't it?
Americans. They just don't
So how
take
did
the
the
piss out of
teacher-
someone's
Only 'cause
disability. They
I'm
don't
just
do it.
time
That's good,
conscious,
isn't
Cam.
it?
How did the
Yeah.
teacher have that effect on you?
Well, he
Yeah.
said to me at the end of it, after I'd read it, that he said to me, "You have a beautiful speaking voice," and I was like, "Oh, shit, no one's ever said that to me before." And I would think it would be terrific for you to, we would be honoured, he said to me, if you would read the lesson each week. So he framed it in a whole different way. He framed it in a very positive way for me. So I was like, and I said to him, I stutter. And he said, I can hear you have some problems with a couple of, or some challenges with some words. But I think with more practice, you'll be fine.
See, building his confidence.
Yeah.
And
And
this
it-
is why I wanted to finish on
Yeah,
this.
and it just-
Someone that helps the
That's what he
journey.
did. And there were other teachers too, Di, who did it. Not just Eugene, but Bob Brewster was in
The priest.
the priest
Yeah.
or the reverend in year
Gorgeous.
7. I had a couple of English teachers, and Mrs. Pullen in year 10, but there
Lovely
were
little
people like
shout-outs
that,
too, yeah.
Buffer Hone at Melbourne Grammar, terrific teacher. That's why I love that Ali's a teacher. I don't know, we're out of time, but
We are.
teachers
I
are
love it.
so important, and I love
But that's
teachers.
the building blocks for confidence.
Yes, they are.
you
And the
know?
teachers are the most underpaid, most
They are.
important
Yes,
people
yes.
Hear,
in our
hear.
community.
Hear, hear.
Sammy's
You know,
saying that
teachers
they
100%
are.
need
agree.
to be paid more.
Nurses and
Yeah.
teachers.
Exactly.
And that's changed the course of your life, really, from Eugene sort of saying that.
God,
and
I'm
giving that, but-
exhausted.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, there's so
I mean,
much.
and
Honestly,
for so
we want to
much.
bring you back because
Cam.
we haven't even gone to
No, no, it was
like
beautiful.
perfect match, Mr. Smooth Radio.
Yeah.
Can
we
we
love
do
that.
part
And,
two?
and congratulations, number 1 on Australia.
Thank you.
Video.
Oh,
That's
yes,
pretty
Thank
Smooth.
you.
I
cool.
Yeah.
love
And
Smooth.
what
My
about
radio
you? And you were
station.
saying the gig with Luxury Escapes as well. Is that where you got your tan? Or wherever you
Well,
come
that's
back from?
mornings. That's
That's
mornings
right.
surfing.
Surfing.
But
Sure.
but that's the thing. That's the crazy thing is what we can do. What often we view ourselves as a disability is actually our superpower. And so if you can reframe that disability, I couldn't say my name. I called myself Matthew to people that didn't know me. What's your name? Matthew. I could say that easy.
I love that.
I do too. But Matthew was always like so much easier to say than Cameron, So for me to end up doing all those things that you just listed, having had a speech impediment all the way through, and no one knew. My friends just go, yeah, you started a bit. They had my buddies and even my family members really did not know the level to which the depth that it created anxiety for me.
And a lot of people out there listening today that cover up these
that,
insecurities.
Yeah, and it's
Hey, be
okay. That
real,
is your
be
superpower.
real.
Yeah.
Just
See, it's your
exactly.
superpower.
That's your authenticity. Lean
Yeah.
into it. See what happens. Say yes.
I love that word.
Well,
through the
really,
book, the
congratulations
yes.
on that.
Yeah.
This is one of the
Great.
ones that I was saying we will never sort of say anything we don't really love, and we absolutely love this one too.
It's beautiful.
Keep it smooth,
Great
life
read.
lessons in confidence. It's great, and I
Yeah.
love it also that you've got people like Keith Urban in there, and I was saying
Yes.
Kevin
Yes.
Sheedy and
Yeah.
Miguel.
Real
and,
variety.
you know,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
Miguel.
Miguel's
and,
done real-
Oh,
Miguel's
Miguel,
great.
We're
he's
getting him
coming
the
on.
potty,
He's
yeah.
Oh,
coming
Miguel's the
Heather
best.
Mitchell,
Give
who's
it
actually-
in, you
who's
chop
on-
the onions, you're going to cut yourself. You cut yourself. You cannot chop onions until you cut yourself. It's like, okay, Miguel. He's a superman.
Big
And I'll say
heart,
that
big heart.
Keith was the first person.
I
I
love
didn't
Keith
I didn't
Urban.
set out to write with other
yeah.
people. I just knew that I'd ask people their definition of confidence, and everyone had a different one. So I thought, well, maybe I should turn around and ask different people. And I'd just finished the piece about writing about making the record with Keith in '93. I thought, I wonder if Keith would talk about that and confidence, because I know he's battled in his life. And so I texted him, and he came back to me within 2 hours saying yes. And I was like, that was the sign. Heather Mitchell,
We
my
love we
actress,
just
She's been on our
interviewed
body
her.
too.
Heather talks
Love
about
her.
receiving signs from the universe.
Yes, yeah.
And that was my sign from Keith. When he said yes, I'm like, I'm on. I'm hitting
you're
up.
It's
I'm
all
hitting
happening.
people up.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is it.
brilliant.
I'm going.
Well,
I'm asking
well, it
everything.
worked.
We love
It
it.
did.
Yeah, it's
So,
really good.
Nicola, would you like to start?
I
with the
would
first
love.
over the back fence question.
I've always
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to ask Cam this question.
Yeah.
If you,
That's concerning.
You, Nicola.
Everyone, block
You.
your ears. Block
it's
your
always
ears
been
now.
me. Sorry, Ali.
La 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 la.
If you could share a back fence with anybody on planet Earth, who would it be and why?
Roger Federer.
Oh, wow.
Why?
Roger,
You love your
Roger,
tennis. What is it
Roger.
about
Why
Roger?
and why?
Roger, to me, he's a gentleman. He's kind. He's exceedingly talented. There is a story about him in
read
the
it.
book that I just love the story about him in the book, about his backhand and what he wanted to do. His friendship with Rafa.
Yeah.
Yes.
He just seems to have such integrity, and I know he likes golf, and I know he likes tennis. So we have shared things. But I just think I would be at the back fence hosing the gardenias, just looking, waiting for him. Is he back?
Getting a
G'day,
few-
mate.
getting a few tips
So tell me
from
about
tennis.
that
Yeah.
match in Wimbledon you played.
Wasn't he a joy to watch?
He was
I
such
saw
an
one of
absolute
his
joy
last
to
matches
watch.
in
Yes,
Australia,
yeah.
and he was tears pouring out of his face. He's not afraid to be authentic. You know,
that's
No,
true.
yeah,
it's
he's
all
just-
transparent.
Yeah.
This is me. This is
and
what
he
you
is a
get.
man. He is to
Love
me.
me or hate, this is who
It's
I
like
am.
don't stop. Marcus Aurelius is that great quote. Don't ask the question about what a man should be. Be one.
Oh,
And he is one. He's just a man
yeah.
who stands up and he's just got integrity and calm and he's emotional and authentic.
Yeah, we're authentic. That's what we love.
And that's what I loved about his tennis. And I just think that.
Well, that's what we love about you because you've found your authenticity.
It is, yeah,
Last
yeah.
question, Cam.
True.
If you had the chance of meeting your 21-year-old self,
Yeah.
it was 20 at one stage. I've added another year.
21-year-old.
If
Close
you
to
had the
perfect match.
opportunity,
Yeah.
any words of advice or any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with him?
Yeah, I would say when you've got a task, you've got something to do, break it down into doable chunks and finish each of those tasks. Finish what you start. And then that will take you along the path a lot further than trying to do those big, massive things. I'm going to build a house. Well, before you build a house, let's build a bench today. Let's finish that. And then clean up. And then do the next thing. Make a chair the next day. And then clean up. So always starting with a fresh slate. But for me, it's really about breaking things down into small, doable things and finishing. Because that's where the confidence comes. Can I do one more little
Yes,
piece?
I'm loving it. This is music to my
we love
ears.
this. You
One more
can.
piece
Yeah.
is that this idea that we're supposed to have this feeling going into something that we're not sure about, that we're supposed to be confident, like walking through a door. We're supposed to say, I can do this, I got this. We're supposed to feel a little anxious. We're supposed to feel a little nervous. We're supposed to feel a little trepidation. All those feelings that we're having, we're meant to feel them.
Normalising it. I love it.
Well,
good, isn't
it's
it?
meant to be
So
there.
good to hear
and
this.
and the feeling of confidence, that feeling of confidence comes after you've done it.
Yes.
So just say yes and go ahead and
3
take
letters.
yourself into it.
Oh, yeah. Like
Lean
Lisa
into
Walker
it.
said.
Beautiful.
We've got the air
Cam,
products here.
that's
She's
a
the year
beautiful
of
way to
yes. It's so
finish,
beautiful. Well, we're going to ask too what makes you happy.
Finishing things makes me happy.
Yeah. Big
Finishing
Finish
things.
the chair, finish the table,
Wow.
finish the
Wow.
bench.
Yeah,
Well,
that
we're
makes me happy.
Finishing
And
the
the joy.
chat, the podcast.
It's been
And
great.
the fact that I get
Wanna
to choose stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that I have freedom to choose what I do,
That's good.
that makes
That's
me happy.
empowering, isn't it?
Yeah, that
Gorgeous.
makes me really
but you
happy.
created that. Well done, Cam.
Yeah,
Loved
we
every
all do.
minute. I've
We
loved.
all
do.
You've
We've
taken me on highs of laughter, lows
Lows
of
deep.
tears.
We've
So
gone-
it's been a fabulous interview. I've loved every minute of it, Cam.
every
I
bit
really
of
have.
it. Well,
Because
thank
we
you
never
for
know
having
where
me.
we're going
Part
to go,
part
do we?
two.
with
But
our
everybody,
interviews?
thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming
It's
on. We really
wonderful.
made it. And thank
Loved
you,
it.
everyone, for listening.
Yeah.
And don't forget to rate and review
God, I
and
forget
share
this.
this to everybody who you know, which I think is going to be everybody. We like to get the stars. We
know.
like to get 5 stars because you know, Cam, how important that is when you've got podcasts. You know, so
Absolutely.
we
Yeah.
love to get that. So if you can give us some rating, would be good. But Di gives her own rating sometimes. And what do you think for?
I'm going to
for
for
Mr.
Cam,
Daddo
I'm going
here.
to give him 20 out of 5 because
Whoa!
that's how many he had in the men's shed. You were brave and bold to go ahead and vulnerable to do that. 20 people came back, so it's 20 out of 5.
20 out of 5.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So there you go.
You win.
did well.
Thank you,
Tick.
ladies.
What
Thank
was
you
the
so much for
tick?
having me.
Yeah.
It's another teacher from school giving you confidence.
Thanks for listening,
Thanks,
everyone. Ciao,
Cam.
ciao.
Wow, that was an amazing interview.
Whoa, I'm just
Oh,
sort of,
gotta go
I'm
that
sort of
way.
coming down from that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you go, wow, Cam Daddo. I've always sort of, known he's a great guy or whatever, but just how deep he is and how he's not afraid to be so vulnerable. It's just music to our ears. How did you
you know
find
the
that, Di?
remarkable thing that what you just said about vulnerability is the beautiful thing. The book he's written is Keep It Smooth: Life Lessons in Confidence. At the end of the day, it's like using those tools, the building blocks to becoming confident.
Yes.
And I think the main inference that I took away from that interview, and I know Sam, our producer's on the mic now, was he started a thing called the Men's Shed. It was when he was in Los Angeles acting, because he was having a real battle mentally. And he just sent a letter off to the school and went, any guys want to meet me, just sit and talk, chew the fat. and it's a continuum. He does that in Sydney now. And I think, Nicola, you said that it was the vulnerability in Cam that was just so, that I embraced.
Yeah, and I used to look at someone like Cam, and even when he acknowledged, like in his infidelity or whatever, and how, effed up and made this, what was the worst thing to happen, I guess, in a marriage. But you go, when someone's done the work, when someone does it still every day of this life, you go, here is a new person. And I think it just gives me confidence to know that, people who we all make mistakes in life, but you become more and more sort of evolved as a person, and he has done that, and he lives and breathes it. And I sort of think for men and for women,
and Sam,
it just gives me confidence. What do you think, Sam?
Sam was the same. You responded like that. I loved your comment about LA versus Australia awareness.
I was just saying, like, for me, I think there's a beautiful new trend with younger men being more in touch with their vulnerability, because I think we're making it more like acceptable, and we're encouraging it, and we're saying, please, like, share how you feel. And so I see that in men, in their 30s or younger, and like Mitch Wallace, who we have on this week. But I don't see it as much in men of Cam's age. And I was just saying, I think part of the reason why he is so in touch with that side of himself is because when he was going through all of that adversity, he was in LA. And I really do think, for all the craziness of America, one of the things that they are really great at is they have always been believers in doing the work, in getting therapy. It's been much more accepted in the States that someone would have a therapist, work on themselves. And I think, thankfully, it's becoming that way now in Australia. But I think it's been lacking. We have a culture of, oh, you'll be right, particularly with men, just get over it, move on. And this culture of being laid back, which in one sense is good, but when it's just be laid back and don't actually deal with your shit. Yeah,
just look at the surf and the waves and keep it at that level.
Exactly. I don't think that's helpful. And so I think America's been ahead of the world in terms of let's really understand why it is that we're like
Sam,
this.
when I lived in New York in the 80s, everyone had an analyst.
Yeah.
Am I using the right term?
Yeah,
it was an analyst.
It was a type of therapy.
I don't even think it was a psychologist. It was an analyst. And because I was very young and gorgeous back then.
Of course.
Still are.
Gorgeous
now. More gorgeous now. But it was I was always you're going where? You're seeing who? What do you do there? I was so perplexed. And so 360 away from that. And I remember them always coming back happier and clear thinking. And I thought, I used to think, wow. But I'd come back to Australia and
well, it's
therapy,
so good to see it's changed, and it's good to see of someone when you're sort of saying of that age group, and I sort of think of people of all age groups now, and for older guys and for older women, it's never too late.
No, so
it's never too late.
And
you can start again, and and you can start, as he was sort of saying, if you rebuild something, you rebuild it in a new way when you do something. And even back to your thing with American Australia, when he had his stutter in Australia, the Australians would giggle and laugh at him, Aussies, where Americans didn't. And that's an interesting thing. I think maybe younger kids now in Australia probably don't as much now, how those things are changing.
Small poppy syndrome.
That's just that everybody.
Small poppy thing. We've got that. It's so bad.
A lot of life lessons. Totally.
What did I say? Small.
Small, but that's okay.
Sometimes I think small because they put you down.
Well, it makes you feel small.
Yeah,
exactly. It's please be small.
How's the irony in that?
Yeah.
From highs of laughter to lows of tears in that for all of us.